for coming out to the celebration of Marcus Garvey's birthday. May the peace and blessings of a life-giving creative spirit be upon you and upon your family. My name is Melvin Ishmael Johnson. Just a couple of quick things. The restrooms over here, exit over here. No intermission, short Q&A after the reading. So sit back, relax, and enjoy Catch the Tackle.
Churches stretch forth her hand unto God. Africa for the African, home and abroad. One God, one aim, one destiny. Up, you mighty race. You can accomplish what you will. Where's the black man's government? Where is his king and his kingdom? Where is his president, his country, his army, his navy? I could not find them anywhere, so I declared I will help make them. Lift up yourselves from the mire and rise up. Rise as high as the stars themselves. Let nobody stop you. Let nobody look down on you because of the color of your skin. You descend from Africa. Africa is a glorious history. We say to the white man who now exploits Africa that it is in his interest to clear out of Africa now because we are coming. Clear out before it is too late because we are on our way. We shall not ask the white man, why are you here? We shall say, get out of here. If Europe is for the European, then I say, Africa is for the African. I recently took a 38-state tour in order to study the conditions of black people in America. Let me tell you what I found. These so-called Negro leaders of our people have no plan. They are just living off of their so-called leadership while our people continue groping in the dark, looking for a little light. Why are they so-called leaders so desperate in support from the goodwill of the white man?
Act 1, Scene 2. Setting, Office of J. Edgar Hoover, Washington, D.C. Time, 1920 summer. J. Edgar Hoover, sitting at his desk, reading the report on Marcus Garvey's speech. Agent James Amos stands near the desk.
Is this word for word of his last speech?
Yes.
This is a dangerous man. Damn radical, ungrateful, and un-American.
Marcus Garvey is dealing with long-standing issues of Negro injustice.
What Negro injustice? Their lives are far better than any place in the world. Better than Africa, the West Indies, or South America.
They are American citizens and entitled to certain inalienable rights.
They have to learn first to control themselves. Look at Elaine, Arkansas. Negro rioting, property loss. Over 200 deaths, thousands of people hurt. Chicago, 65 deaths, thousands left homeless. Property damage east of St. Louis, hundreds of lives lost and thousands left homeless.
Yes, but some of these riots were not caused by people like Marcus Garvey, but white folks not wanting Negroes to get jobs.
He is a radical. A lot of these Negro radicals are out there to breed problems. I don't know which is worst, radicals or communists.
Yes, the communists. But Garvey's no communist.
And how do you know that?
Well, he's into developing businesses. Negro business. He set up a network of businesses owned and staffed by Negroes, providing goods and services to Negro customers without relying on white management, staff, or customers. Don't you know his philosophy?
I know he's somebody who can cause us a lot of trouble. Newspapers like the Negro World is serving the same purpose as magazines like that communist Messenger magazine, feeding information to arouse the Negro community. We had over 50 race riots in 1919 caused by propaganda coming from the radicals and communists.
Yes, the Red Summer. The returning military veterans fought for their country. They deserved more. Even Attorney General Palmer said that never again will Negroes tamely submit to violence and intimidation.
White men also fought for their country and came home from the war to find Negroes in their jobs. Their reaction is understandable. We don't need a voice like Garvey to add to the mix.
I agree.
The tide fearsome and efficient predator, the tiger. Did you know that the tiger is one of the few animals on Earth that has absolutely no fear of man?
No, I didn't know that.
Well, it's a fact. How many men we got on guard?
We have 3 men watching him at all times.
Put 2 more men on him. I want to know everywhere he goes, who he meets with, his weaknesses, his strengths, the whole works.
I think it would be better if those men reported directly to me.
I don't think that would work. They are white. They will watch his every move.
No, we have to be careful about that. I did something similar here in New York, and it created lots of problems in the press. And look at the Palmer raids. I mean, you guys ran into a lot of problems with that.
I know you worked for President Roosevelt, but you don't really know about the national security. You are only a bodyguard.
You're what, 28, 29? What do you really know about national security? I've been out there around the block a few times. You've got to be very careful about what you're asking us to do. Do you have the authority from the Attorney General?
The Attorney General has given me this job, and Congress is looking over his shoulder. I intend to save America from radical turmoil.
Help your career advancement, huh?
Be careful, Agent Thomas. This is part of my plan for getting Marcus Garvey.
It was also your plan to start the Palmer raids on November 7th, 1919, the 2nd year anniversary of the Communist Revolution.
They bombed the house of the Attorney General, our top law official. They set off bombs in just about every major city in America. Attorney General Palmer believed, like I do, that the communists were plotting to overthrow the American government and set up a Soviet model.
Marcus, I just received the report from the Black Star Line.
I'll lock up the books.
The overall donations have doubled from last week's count. Oh, one other thing. I heard from Bishop McGuire he was successful in getting the Archbishop of the Syrian Church to support and ordain him. He wants you to mention it at the meeting tonight.
About time that we erase the image of a white God from the minds of our people.
An African God for an African people. Oh, I understand that the British and French have inquired about your activities in Liberia and your plans for moving some of the UNIA members there.
That's to be expected. Britain and France are just like the United States when it comes to black people. Things might get a little tough.
I'm a tough lady, Marcus. I'm not some floor mat that someone can just walk over. My father taught me to be strong. Marcus, I am surprised at you. You know my history. I had to run my father's business when he was sick, and I ran it very well. I can take the pressure. You're the one that's not focusing. You appointed John to the position of manager of the Manufacturers Association, and he has no background at all. He has a third-grade education. The association is where our organization gets most of its funding.
I know you mean well, but I'm going to ask you to respect my wishes.
I respect your wishes. But Marcus, this is a problem. John has no experience, and he has a bad attitude. And John is not the only one. Look at Milton over in Productions. No experience, no education. Edmund working with the Black Star Line. No experience at all.
I know what is best for the organization.
You don't seem to know what is best with these kind of appointments, Marcus. These appointments you're making.
I have allowed you to run the women's page of the Negro World to say whatever you want without interference, and you should give me the same courtesy. Don't you worry about this.
Marcus, I am your wife. The UNIA is something I really believe in. For the first time, I have a good feeling about an organization that has the ability to help our people. That is why I'm so concerned about these appointments that will destroy the UNIA. If you're not careful, we need to build with competent people.
And Bill, we will.
I always wondered why we needed the oppressors okay before we did for ourselves. I believe in this organization. And I believe in you.
queen of beauty. Thou hast given color to the world.
J. Edgar Hoover. Glad to meet you, sir. It's good to see that we still have some truly loyal Americans in the Negro community. Have a seat.
I love America. God bless America. And I want to do the right thing.
Marcus Garvey is a menace to the welfare of the United States. He has the potential to arouse ill feeling between the races.
He is an insult to the good and loyal colored people of America.
But you supported him. You gave him rather large donations.
I wanted to see if he was the real thing,
The real thing.
the savior.
Our people are always looking for a savior.
I thought that he would be good for all of the people. But that didn't apply to me because I'm a light-skinned Negro. He's looking for dark-skinned followers like Agent Amos over here.
If that's all he is, why do all these people listen to his rhetoric?
He preaches freedom.
Lots of people preach freedom.
He has a way with words that creates disharmony among the races. Marcus Garvey stirs up trouble.
You're right about that. Radicals like him caused the Red Summer riots in
If
1990.
you betrayed Marcus Garvey, how do we know that you will not betray us?
I am not betraying Marcus Garvey. I am supporting our people.
Can we trust you?
How do I know I can trust you?
You don't.
That's not an answer. I'm putting my life on the line.
I'm sure he wouldn't be here if you didn't think that we could trust him. I am thankful that we have a truly loyal American who realizes how dangerous Marcus Garvey is.
Yes, we are.
What I need, that is, what the government needs, is someone who is already part of Garvey's organization. Study it from the inside. Determine the weaknesses and strengths of the organization.
Get close to Garvey.
Make him trust you.
Become
Make
his
him
friend.
depend on you.
Become his friend.
I want you to be very careful, and don't you underestimate the tiger.
Who, sir?
That's Garvey's code name for your reports. The tiger.
That's a colorful name.
Can I rely on you?
Yes, sir, Mr. Hoover.
I don't want you to come down here anymore.
And don't contact us. We will contact you.
Agent Amos is your only contact. You understand?
Yes, sir.
Don't talk to anyone else about your work.
Okay.
You'll also need a code name for the reports. Your code name is 800.
I was told you want to talk to me about Marcus Garvey.
That's right. Thank you for making time out of your busy schedule.
I will do whatever I can.
What can you tell us about Marcus Garvey's business operation?
You got to understand, I'm no longer in the inner circle. I don't have the access I had after that convention business.
Their decision to impeach you from your position in the UNIA was wrong. Spike was right.
Garvey thought I was passing information to Dr. Du Bois and A. Philip Randolph. No.
What is the situation with Black Star Line? How does the money from the stockholders end up in Garvey's pocket?
It doesn't.
Garvey is not lining his pockets with the money that was supposed to be going to the organization.
And he lives very modestly. It's not so much Garvey as it is those that he got around him. That's the den of thieves. They smile in his face, shaking his hand with one hand and stealing with the other. I think he knew about the stealing, but he didn't know what to do about it.
We have evidence he is stealing. If Marcus Garvey were indicted for stealing money from the UNIA, would you be willing to tell us what you know about how he handles the funds from the UNIA?
Garvey is not careful about handling funds. There's no difference between his personal expenses and the UNIA expenses.
What about the account? I mean, he would know the difference.
He can only record what they give him.
Meaning what?
Meaning there are other financial documents that Garvey keeps to himself.
We need your help, Reverend Easton.
I'll do whatever I can.
That's
many hearings and just watch the bad guy walk away sometime without even a slap on the wrist.
This will be different. Agent Amos said that you have some documents about Marcus Garvey fundraising activities that will help us get Garvey.
Promise me that you will get Garvey and I will give you the documents.
I promise. We need more loyal Americans like yourself.
And loyal law enforcement like you. And you, Agent Amos.
Thank you, Reverend.
You know, I like the potential of the UNIA. That's why I got involved. I introduced him to some of the leading pastors in all. Because I liked what Garvey had to say. And then he goes and embarrasses me in front of my congregation with that impeachment mess at the convention. I thought he was a friend. Now, he was like
A savior?
not quite.
Is it possible for you to give us the documents for safekeeping?
No, the documents are in different places. I don't think you would understand the documents without me.
Well, let us worry about
I am worried about that.
Don't worry, Reverend Easton. Agent Amos has been around the block a few times. We know about your speaking engagement in New Orleans and wish you the best. It takes a lot of courage to do what you're doing.
I want to do what's right as a servant of God.
I hope you have a wonderful time in New Orleans. Be careful.
Careful.
it. You're one of our most important witnesses against Marcus Garvey. You know, if they found out, these people...
What people are you talking about? Does Garvey know about my testimony?
No. But some of Garvey's henchmen have a history of violence and vengeance toward their enemies.
Vengeance is mine, thus says the Lord.
Well, that's good. I mean, that's good. But still keep your eyes open. They may try to intimidate you, so don't you take any chances.
I don't think they'll bother you because you are a preacher. And you do have a large following.
Gentlemen, have no fear. I put my faith and trust in the Lord.
Amos and Reverend Easton exit. Hoover picks up Garvey's file, takes out the picture of Marcus Garvey, and looks at it a moment.
Provisional President of Africa. Not on my watch.
Hoover walks back over to the desk, sits and turns his back to the audience and begins to read through Garvey's file as the scene fades out.
I came down here to make sure that you are out of the way when they spring the trap on Marcus Garvey. I know you still see him. Not in the way you think. What other way is it? He is a married man.
What are you trying to say, Henrietta?
I am saying uncontrolled emotions are a dangerous thing.
Marcus came to see you. He thought that there was a spy in his organization.
There are plenty of spies in the UNIA and plenty of killers. But the intelligence community in London believes that Reverend Easton might have been killed by someone working in the United States government with the intent of framing Marcus Garvey. You know, it backfired on them when they couldn't tie Garvey to the murder. They're in the process now of putting pressure on the Liberian government and forcing them to go back on their agreement to settle some of Garvey's followers in Africa.
But they already promised Marcus a section of land for settlement of some of the UNI members there.
I know.
You know what?
I know what I need to know.
Henrietta, as a friend, I need to know the truth.
The land promised to the UNIA will instead be given to an international corporation and the money to make it work. Now do you understand what you are up against? Which corporation? Firestone Rubber Corporation.
Does Marcus know?
I don't think so.
He'll be devastated.
Devastated? Amy,
understanding what I'm telling you. Marcus Garvey is too dangerous to be around. Come on, even the black leadership in America wants him to go down. Most of the Negroes in Harlem now work in Garvey's businesses and have now left their white bosses. Look, I don't want you to put your life in danger because you think you owe this cat something. Look, do you honestly think they'll let Marcus Garvey or anyone move black people to Africa? Come on, not as long as they still need their cheap labor. They will always need some helpless people to exploit.
It's been a long time since I heard you talk like that on the shooting. They are trying to connect Marcus to the three men. Have you ever heard Marcus mention any of these three men?
No.
If something happens to Marcus,
Nothing is going to happen to Marcus.
all I'm saying is that if Marcus goes to prison,
Nothing is going to happen to Marcus.
you better open your eyes and wake up. Look, Marcus got enemies coming from him from all sides. The Justice Department, the colored leadership, the British and the French government. He's being followed everywhere he goes, and they're following you too. Look, that man, sitting at the far table with his bullet bulge in his jacket, look around. That's one of Hoover's boys. That's why I wanted to meet you here. It's hard for a white person to hide amongst a whole lot of black people. Black people watching too. That black guy over there with the white socks, probably working for Agent Amos.
Are they following you or me?
Both of us.
The scene crossfades to J.A. Rogers and A. Philip Randolph.
Crabs in a bucket, just like Marcus said.
He brought it on himself.
How can you say that?
Provisional president of Africa. Wasting poor people's money, the meeting with the Klan. What can you expect?
Jealousy and all this infighting while our people still suffer? I covered the trial. They framed him, and they'll frame you next.
He's his own worst enemy.
Don't you mean the Committee of 8 is his worst enemy?
I am not part of that.
They're coming for you too, Asa.
I
You
know.
can believe that.
I know. And I will be ready. Marcus Garvey's way is not my way.
The aim of the Negro should be national, not segregated unity.
We must fight against those who divide our people. We must organize around solid plans, not foolish talk and slogans, getting rich off the misery of our people.
Marcus is not in this for the money. He's in it to help our people. I knew that when I first heard him speak. Such passion, such love for our people. You heard the same thing, Asa. That's why you support him.
I was inspired by what Marcus had to say about the slaughter of our people during the East St. Louis riots. Over 200 of our people killed in the riots, and our leaders making the same speeches while our people are beaten, lynched, and burned. In the midst of all these fine speeches, Marcus said, "This is no time for fine words.
A time to lift one voice against the savagery of a people who claim to be the dispensers of democracy. The others oppose him for personal reasons. What is your reason, Asa? You should have found a way to work with Marcus.
I wish I could. But I have my own ideas, which are better."
There is one.
Everybody was excellent. Two comments. One is that I expected Hoover to be a little bit more mendacious than he came across in this, particular play, which was kind of interesting. The other thing I was going to say is that I can understand, the philosophical difference, that A. Philip Randolph had with Marcus Garvey. But what I am interested in is what was the motivation of the agent that was working with Hoover? Why? I'd kind of like to understand that mentality.
Well, most of them at work, the Committee of 8, most of them was in the upper echelon of the black community, what they call the boule now. They use that term that had been developed by W.E.B. Du Bois when he come up with the concept of the talented tenth. And even though Du Bois moved away from it when Carter G. Woodson wrote the book, The Miseducation of the Negro, you know, the leadership still stayed with it, and that's the problem we have today. We ended up losing our three most important institutions that the black community, descendants of the chattel slaves of American community had. And that was a black church. We lost that. We don't have a black church now. That's not part of the mainstream black community. That's the lower part of the mainstream society. Then we lost the black educational system with the 114 black schools that we had. And when immigration came, all of the talent, the football talent, the athletic talent, the brain drain went to these segregated schools, you know, like Alabama and Ole Miss, all of these schools that the black person couldn't put their foot on during that time. And then one thing that people don't talk about, we lost that, what Du Bois and them tried to develop later was a national black theater company. See, and we haven't been able to, they tried to do that in the 30s when they disbanded the Federal Theater Project because they said there was too many communists in that. And until we put that back together, because we talk about the Harlem Renaissance, you know, that was a really upper middle class bourgeois movement, but people forget Marcus Garvey and the Universal Negro Improvement Association, they had a Renaissance, they had writers, they had plays, they had all of that, but they didn't get the publicity from that.
I was just going to ask, how did it feel to play J. Edgar Hoover, and what did you do to get prepared?
Good question.
I watched every film I could find on him. He was very interesting. I didn't know he was part black and passing as white. I was shocked to find that out. I always heard rumors, and then you hear rumors about his sexuality, and I think he wore he dressed as a woman once, going to a costume party, so everybody thinks he's a drag queen. You know, there are all these wild stories. There's myths about him that you don't know what's true and what's not true. But he did develop, like Melvin said, he was a very smart person. He developed this fingerprinting system that we have today, a lot of the investigative tools we have today. But I think he probably passed so he could move forward. He thought if they knew his background, he couldn't move ahead. But he really, I had to respect a lot of the things he did. I guess he was very paranoid about, he saw communists everywhere and radicals everywhere, just like he said about if they thought he was a powerful black man, he was going to be dangerous, you know, or cause an insurrection. So the more I read about Hoover, the more fascinated I was. He's a very fascinating person.
Yeah, J. Edgar Hoover come in the Mississippi Delta. You had two families of Hoover. You had the white Hoovers and you had the black Hoovers that had come out of there. His mom was a mulatto, and they moved to Washington, D.C. And so, yeah, he was part black. That's why I always suggest reading the works of J.A. Rogers. This brother wrote Sex and Race, Volume 1, 2, 3. 100 Great Men of Color, Volume 1, Volume 2. And then Nature Knows No Color Line. When you read that, he would dismiss all of these arguments that's going on now among black people, you know, and white, about this whole color thing that have emerged again. And then he wrote a very important book called 5 Black Presidents. He wrote that in the 40s. So I suggest reading J. Rogers. He did one of the some of the last interview with Marcus Garvey while he was in prison.